The conference room on Verath Prime was enormous. It stretched at least 200 meters in every direction, with ceilings so high they disappeared into artificial clouds. Thousands of alien representatives sat in floating platforms that hovered around a central stage. This was the heart of the Galactic Concordance, the government that had ruled known space for 10,000 years. Ambassador Taman stood alone on the central platform. He was a small figure compared to the massive aliens surrounding him. His simple gray suit looked plain next to their elaborate robes and armor. He held a datapad in his hands, but he did not need to look at it. He had memorized every word of his speech. Honored members of the Concordance, Taman began. His voice was amplified across the massive chamber. Humanity requests the right to settle 3 star systems along the border of your territory. These systems are unclaimed. No species lives there. We simply ask for permission to build our homes in empty space. Laughter erupted from multiple platforms. It started small, then grew louder. Within seconds, thousands of aliens were laughing at him. The sound echoed through the chamber like thunder. Overlord Krathos rose from his throne. He was the leader of the Verath Empire, the most powerful species in the Concordance. His body was covered in thick scales, and his eyes glowed red in the dim light. When he spoke, his voice made the entire platform vibrate. Humanity, Krathos said, and somehow he made the word sound like an insult. You come before this council with 70 ships, 70. The Concordance commands 50,000 vessels. We have warships older than your entire civilization. And you ask us for permission? More laughter filled the room. Taman stood perfectly still. His face showed nothing. You will leave the border systems within 48 hours, Krathos continued.
If you do not, we will remove you by force.
This council has spoken. The platform beneath Taman began to descend, carrying him away from the central stage. The meeting was over. As he sank through the floor, he could still hear them laughing. On board the Earth Defense Force flagship Indomitable, Captain Minho watched the transmission end. The screen went dark. For a long moment, nobody on the bridge said anything. They laughed at us, said Lieutenant Heejin from her tactical station. Her hands were clenched into fists. They actually laughed. They always laugh, Minho replied quietly. Until they stop, Chief Engineer Wu Jin turned in his chair. Captain, our orders? We hold position, Minho said. And we wait for command to tell us what happens next. 48 hours. That was all the time Earth had to decide between surrender and war. A war they could not possibly win. Back on Earth, Admiral Jiwon stood in front of a massive holographic display. It showed the positions of every Earth ship and every known Concordance vessel. The difference was staggering. Humanity's 70 ships looked like tiny dots scattered across space. The Concordance Armada was an ocean of red markers that covered half the galaxy. President Sunho entered the command center. He looked tired. He had not slept in 2 days. What are our options? Sunho asked. General Yuna pulled up a tactical analysis. Conventional warfare is impossible. Even if every one of our ships destroyed 10 of theirs before being destroyed, we would still lose. And we would not achieve that ratio. Their shields are stronger. Their weapons have longer range. We would be slaughtered. What about retreating? Sunho asked. We pull back, abandon the border systems, buy ourselves time? Time for what? Yuna replied. They will not stop at the border. They see us as insects. If we show weakness now, they will push further. In 5 years, they will be demanding we abandon Mars. In 10 years, they will want Earth itself. Intelligence Director Do-hyun spoke up. He was a quiet man who rarely attended these meetings. There is another option. Everyone turned to look at him. Project Silent Departure, Do-hyun said. It is ready. Admiral Jiwon's eyes widened. That project was theoretical. We have never tested it at scale. We have tested it on small vessels, Do-hyun replied. The mathematics work. The simulations work. We simply have never had a reason to use it on warships. He pulled up new data on the holographic display. It showed complex equations and energy readings that most people in the room did not understand. Silent Departure uses gravitational manipulation to bend space around our ships, Do-hyun explained. Light passes around them. Sensors cannot detect them. Gravity wells cannot track them. To every measurement device in existence, they simply do not exist. How many ships can we equip? Sunho asked. 30 ships can be modified in 40 hours, Do-hyun said. The other 40 will operate normally as a distraction. A distraction for what? Yuna asked. Do-hyun smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. For Operation Phantom Hand, he changed the display. Now it showed Vareth Prime, the homeworld of Overlord Krathos. The planet had 3 moons orbiting it. Their names were Keltos, Miran, and Thulos. We cannot win a fleet battle, Do-hyun said. So we will not fight a fleet battle. We will do something they cannot imagine, something they cannot defend against. We will take their moons. The room fell silent. Take their moons? President Sunho repeated. What does that mean? The gravitational technology that powers silent departure can do more than hide ships, Do-hyun explained. It can move massive objects. We position 30 ships around their 3 moons. We use coordinated gravitational fields to pull the moons out of orbit. We relocate them to the far side of their sun where they cannot be seen. That is insane, Yuna said. That is the point, Do-hyun replied. They expect us to attack their fleet. They expect conventional warfare. They do not expect us to steal their moons without firing a single shot, without even being detected. Admiral Ji-won studied the projections. How long would it take? 6 hours to move each moon once we are in position, Do-hyun said. 3 days to reach Vareth Prime undetected. The moons themselves will not be harmed. We simply change their location. President Sunho walked to the display. He stared at the image of Vareth Prime and its 3 moons. Billions of aliens lived on that planet. They looked up every night and saw those moons. They had seen them for thousands of years. If we do this, Sunho said slowly, there is no going back. This will either end the conflict or start a real war. We are already at war, Admiral Ji-won said. They just have not bothered to fight it yet because they think we are too weak to matter. We need to show them they are wrong. Not by destroying things, not by killing people, but by proving we can do things they cannot comprehend. Sunho closed his eyes. He thought about the 70 ships in space. He thought about the crews aboard them. He thought about the 8 billion people on Earth who were depending on him to make the right choice. Do it, he said finally. Launch Operation Phantom Hand. Do-hyun nodded and began sending orders. Within minutes, 30 ships received new instructions. They would install the silent departure technology and move to Vareth Prime. Captain Minho's 40 ships would move toward the border systems, drawing attention away from the real operation. In his quarters aboard the Indomitable, Captain Minho read his new orders. He was to engage in visible fleet maneuvers along the border. Make noise. Draw the Concordance fleet toward him. Keep them looking the wrong direction while the real mission happened behind their backs. He understood what this meant. His ships were the bait. If the plan failed, his ships would be the first to die. Minho put on his uniform and returned to the bridge. His crew was waiting. They looked scared but determined. Navigation, set course for the border systems, Minho ordered. Full speed. Make sure everyone sees us coming. Yes, sir, the navigator replied. As the Indomitable's engines flared to life, Minho looked at the star map one more time. Somewhere out there, 30 invisible ships were beginning the most audacious operation in human history. The Concordance had laughed at Earth's fleet. They would not be laughing for much longer. Commander Seojin stood on the bridge of the stealth ship Whisper and watched his crew work in silence. Every station had been modified. Every system had been redesigned. The ship barely looked like it had 3 days ago. Thick cables ran along the walls, connecting to new equipment that hummed with strange energy. Final system check, Seojin. Ordered. Gravitational drive at 98%, reported engineer. Taejin. Navigation locked and loaded, added. Navigator Hana. Course plotted to Vareth Prime with 3 correction points. Communications. Array disconnected, said Communications Officer Bora. Her voice was sad. Disconnecting communications meant they would be completely alone. Once they activated the silent departure system, they could not send or receive any messages. We are going dark, Seojin nodded. 29 other ships were making the same preparations. 30 vessels that would vanish from every sensor in the galaxy. 30 ships that would travel 3 days through enemy space without anyone knowing they existed. All hands, this is Commander Seojin. He spoke into the ship-wide channel. In 5 minutes, we activate silent departure. After that, we cannot communicate with each other or with command. Each ship follows its programmed course. We meet at Vareth Prime in 72 hours. Trust your training. Trust your equipment. Trust each other. He paused, then added, The Concordance thinks we are weak. They think we are afraid. They are about to learn how wrong they are. All stations prepare for activation. The 5 minutes passed in silence. Then Engineer Tajan touched his console. Activating silent departure in 3, 2, 1 mark. The ship changed. That was the only way to describe it. The lights dimmed. The normal engine sound disappeared. A new sensation filled the air like pressure building before a storm. Outside the windows, the stars looked different. They seemed to bend and twist as if the ship was looking at them through water. "We are invisible," Hana whispered. "We actually did it. Check all systems," Seojin ordered. "Make sure everything is working." For the next hour, the crew ran diagnostics. Everything functioned properly. The gravitational field around the ship bent light and sensor waves around them. To the rest of the universe, the whisper simply did not exist. "Setting course for Varath Prime," Hana said. "Estimated arrival in 72 hours. The journey began. Far away, Captain Minho's fleet approached the border systems with all lights blazing. Every ship broadcast identification signals. Every vessel showed up clearly on sensors. They wanted to be seen. "Concordance patrol fleet detected," Lieutenant Hyejin reported. 20 ships moving to intercept. "Maintain course," Minho ordered. "Let them see us." The Concordance ships approached carefully. They sent communication requests. Minho answered them. "This is Concordance Patrol Commander Vexus," said an alien voice. "You are entering restricted space. Turn back immediately." "This is Captain Minho of the Earth Defense Force," Minho replied calmly. "We are conducting training exercises in international space. We have every right to be here." "You have no rights here, human," Vexus snapped. "The Concordance has issued orders. You will leave within 48 hours or face destruction." "We are discussing those orders with our government," Minho said. "Until we receive new instructions, we will continue our scheduled exercises." He cut the communication. Beside him, Hyejin smiled. "They are furious." "Good," Minho said. "The angrier they get, the more attention they pay to us. And the less attention they pay to anything else." Over the next day, more Concordance ships arrived. They formed a blockade around Minho's fleet. They watched every movement. They tracked every ship. Their sensors swept through space constantly, looking for any sign of threat. They found nothing unusual. Just 40 human ships conducting basic maneuvers. It was boring. It was routine. It was exactly what Minho wanted them to think. Meanwhile, the Whisper and her 29 sister ships drifted through the dark. They passed within 100 kilometers of Concordance patrol routes. They slipped through heavily defended systems. They glided past sensor stations and military bases. Nobody saw them. Nobody detected them. They were ghosts. Lieutenant Hana watched her navigation display with intense focus. Every 6 hours, they made a minor course correction. The timing had to be perfect. All 30 ships had to arrive at Varath Prime at exactly the same moment. If one ship was early or late, the plan would fail. Approaching waypoint 2, Hana reported. "Correction burn in 30 seconds. "Confirmed," said Engineer Tajan. "Gravitational field stable. We can adjust course without breaking stealth." The ship made a gentle turn. The stars shifted slightly in the windows. They continued forward. Day 2 passed in silence. The crew worked in shifts, but nobody slept well. The isolation was oppressive. They could see other ships on their sensors, but could not communicate. They were surrounded by enemies, but completely hidden. The tension was exhausting. "I keep thinking they will see us," Bora said quietly during a break. "Every time a patrol ship passes nearby, I expect alarms to start." "They cannot see us," Seojin reminded her. "Their sensors are looking for engine signatures, heat emissions, gravitational distortions. We are creating a field that hides all of those things. To them, we are empty space, mine, but what if the technology fails?" Bora asked. "Then we die," Seojin said simply. "But the technology will not fail. Trust the engineers who built it. Trust the mathematics. Trust yourself." On day 3, they entered the Varath system. Their destination was close now. Hana checked their position against the programmed coordinates. "We are on schedule, arriving at Varath Prime in 4 hours. All stations prepare for orbital insertion," Seojin ordered. "This is what we came for." Varath Prime grew larger in their windows. It was a beautiful planet, with blue oceans and green continents. 3 moons orbited it. Keltos, the largest, was covered in cities. Billions of Varath lived there. Miran was smaller, with massive mining operations visible on its surface. Thulos was the furthest out. a military base that monitored everything approaching the planet. The 30 human ships moved into position. 10 ships surrounded each moon. They maintained perfect formation, invisible to all sensors. The Varath military had thousands of ships in this system, but none of them noticed 30 extra objects entering orbit. In position, Hana reported. All ships should be arriving now. Seojin checked his chronometer. Right on schedule. 30 ships, arriving within seconds of each other after 3 days of silent running through enemy territory. It was the most precise navigation ever attempted. Prepare gravitational manipulation, Seojin ordered. We begin in 1 hour. That final hour felt longer than the entire 3-day journey. The crew double-checked every system. They ran simulations. They verified calculations. Everything had to be perfect. Engineer Tajan pulled up the gravitational field controls. Commander, we are ready. On your order, we begin pulling Keltos out of orbit. Seojin thought about the billions of Varath on that moon. They were sleeping in their homes, working in their offices, living their lives. They had no idea what was about to happen. In a few hours, their moon would be gone, and they would never know how or why. All stations, Seojin said. This is it. Operation Phantom Hand begins now. Activate gravitational manipulation. Tajan touched his controls. Around Keltos, 10 invisible ships began generating carefully calculated gravitational fields. The fields did not push or pull in any normal way. They created a bubble of altered space that gently, slowly began moving the moon. On the planet below, nobody noticed. The gravitational changes were too subtle. No alarms sounded. No sensors detected anything unusual. The moon simply began to drift. Movement confirmed, Hana reported. Keltos is responding to manipulation. Current velocity increasing as planned. How long until someone notices? Bor asked. Hours, Seojin said. The movement is slow enough that casual observation will not detect it. By the time their instruments realize something is wrong, we will be too far along to stop. Around the other 2 moons, 20 more ships were doing the same thing. Miran and Thulos began their silent journeys. 3 moons, each 1,500 kilometers across, being stolen by invisible thieves. The hours passed. The moons moved further from their normal orbits. The gravitational manipulation was working perfectly. The mathematics held true. The energy requirements were enormous, but the ship's reactors handled the load. 6 hours into the operation, Hana reported. Keltos has moved 30,000 kilometers from original position. Miran and Thulos matching schedule. Any response from Vareth Defense? Seojin asked. Nothing, Bora confirmed. They have not noticed anything wrong. It seemed impossible. 3 moons were being moved and nobody had noticed. But the Vareth had never imagined such a thing was possible. Their sensors looked for ships, for weapons, for energy signatures. They were not looking for moons that slowly drifted away from where they should be. As dawn approached on Vareth Prime, the first reports began coming in. Astronomers noticed that the moons were in the wrong positions. They checked their instruments, thinking there was a calibration error. But the instruments were correct. The moons were actually in the wrong place. By the time the sun rose over the Vareth capital city, all 3 moons had moved far enough that anyone could see they were wrong. Panic began to spread. Scientists had no explanation. Military commanders checked for attacks but found no evidence of any hostile action, and high above them, 30 invisible human ships continued their work, pulling 3 moons toward the far side of the system where they would be hidden from view. The impossible had become real. Overlord Krathos woke to the sound of alarms. He had ruled the Vareth Empire for 300 years. In all that time, he had never been woken by emergency alarms in his private chambers. The capital world was the most protected location in the galaxy. Nothing could threaten it. He activated his communication device. What is happening? My lord, his chief of security stammered. The moons. They are gone. Krathos thought he had misheard. What do you mean gone? All 3 moons, my lord. Keltos, Miran, and Thulos. They have disappeared from orbit. That is impossible, Krathos said. Moons do not disappear. Please come to the command center immediately, his security chief begged. You need to see this. 10 minutes later, Krathos stood in the military command center watching displays that showed nothing where 3 moons should be. Hundreds of officers ran between stations, shouting reports and checking data. Everyone looked terrified. Show me the last known positions, Krathos ordered. The displays changed. They showed the moons slowly drifting away from their orbits over several hours. The movement was smooth and steady. Then the moons simply moved out of sensor range. How did this happen? Kratos demanded. We do not know, my lord, said Fleet Admiral Nexor. There were no energy signatures, no weapon discharges, no gravitational anomalies. The moons just moved. Moons do not just move, Kratos roared. Find them! We are scanning the entire system, Nexor said. But my lord, 3 moons are very large objects. They should be easy to find. The fact that we cannot locate them is disturbing. Kratos looked at the empty displays. 3 moons. Billions of tons of rock. Gone without a trace. It was the kind of power he could not comprehend. Could it be a natural phenomenon? He asked quietly. No, my lord, said Chief Scientist Peltar. This is impossible naturally. Some force moved those moons deliberately, but we detected no such force. Then whoever did this has technology we cannot see, Kratos said. The implications made his blood cold, which means they could do it again. Down on the surface of Varath Prime, panic spread through the population. People looked up at the sky and saw nothing where 3 familiar lights should be. News broadcasts showed empty space where the moons had been. Religious leaders claimed it was divine punishment. Conspiracy theories flooded the networks. The financial markets collapsed within hours. If the government could not protect the home world, if enemies could strike the capital without warning, then nothing was safe. Investors pulled their money. Companies shut down. Within a day, the economic damage was catastrophic. Across the Concordance, other species watched and wondered. If the mighty Varath Empire could not protect its own home system, what did that mean for everyone else? Emergency meetings were called. Defense budgets were reviewed. Ancient rivals saw opportunity. In the Concordance Assembly, representatives demanded explanations. Overlord Kratos addressed them via holographic transmission. We are investigating this incident, Kratos said. His voice was steady, but those who knew him could hear the uncertainty beneath. The moons have been moved, not destroyed. We will locate them and return them to proper orbit. How were they moved? Demanded Ambassador Telvin of the Corvin Empire. What weapon did this? We are still determining that, Kratos admitted. You are telling us that an unknown enemy used an unknown weapon to move 3 moons from the most protected system in the galaxy, and you have no idea how they did it. Telvin's voice rose. How can we trust the Concordance to protect us if you cannot even protect your own home? The assembly erupted in arguments. Some species demanded immediate military action. Others called for investigation. A few quietly began making plans to leave the Concordance entirely. Kratos ended the transmission. He returned to the command center where his military staff was still searching desperately for the missing moons. My lord, said Fleet Admiral Nexor, we are receiving a transmission. It is from Earth. Everyone in the command center fell silent. Earth. The small, weak species with 70 ships. The species they had laughed at just days ago. Play it, Kratos ordered. Ambassador Taman appeared on the screen. He looked exactly as he had during his presentation to the Concordance. Calm. Professional. But now there was something else in his eyes. Confidence. Overlord Kratos, Taman said. I am sure you are looking for your moons. Let me save you some time. We have them. Gasps filled the command center. Kratos raised a hand for silence. Taman continued. Your 3 moons are currently located on the far side of your sun, in stable orbits that will not decay. They are completely unharmed. Every city on Keltos is intact. Every mining facility on Moran still functions. Every military installation on Thulos remains operational. We have not destroyed anything. We have simply moved them. The screen changed to show astronomical data, precise coordinates for 3 objects on the far side of the Varath sun. The measurements proved Earth knew exactly where the moons were. We did not want to do this, Taman said. We came to negotiate peacefully. You laughed at us. You gave us 48 hours to leave space that did not belong to you. You treated us like insects, so we decided to show you what insects can do when they work, together. Kratos felt something he had not experienced. In 300 years, fear. Your moons will be returned safely when you agree to negotiate under respectful terms, Taman said. Earth does not want war. We want peace. We want to settle 3 empty star systems. We want to be left alone, but if you force us to fight, we will fight in ways you cannot imagine. The transmission included more data, energy readings, gravitational calculations, technical specifications that proved Earth understood what they had done. More importantly, it proved they could do it again. We hope this demonstration encourages diplomatic discussion, Taman concluded. If further demonstrations are needed, we have identified 12 other major concordance worlds whose moons could be relocated. We would prefer not to. The choice is yours. The transmission ended. For a long moment nobody spoke. Then Fleet Admiral Nexor said quietly, "My lord, if they can do this to us, they can do it to anyone." "How many ships do we have in this system?" Krathos asked. 5,000, my lord. "And they moved our moons without any of those ships detecting them," Krathos said. "Which means they are still here, invisible, watching us right now." He looked around the command center as if he could see the human ships hiding in the corners. They could be anywhere. They could be everywhere. "Contact the War Council," Krathos ordered. "Emergency session now." The council met within hours. Representatives from all major concordant species gathered. Everyone had seen Earth's transmission. Everyone understood what it meant. "We must respond with overwhelming force," declared War Marshal Drex of the Corvan Empire. "Show them that moving moons will not save them from our fleet." "And if they move our moons too?" asked Councillor Methus of the Aquarian Sphere. "Or worse? They clearly have technology we do not understand. Attacking blindly could be disastrous." "They are bluffing," Drex insisted. "This was their only weapon. They used everything they had on this one strike. Now they are defenseless." "How do you know?" High Strategist Vornis of the Telkaran Coalition asked. "How do you know they only have 30 invisible ships? How do you know they cannot do worse things than move moons?" "Because if they could do worse, they would have done worse," Drex argued. "No," Vornis said. "If they could do worse, they would have threatened worse. They told us they have identified 12 other targets. That means they have ships positioned at those targets right now. Ships we cannot see. Ships we cannot fight." The council chamber descended into arguments. Some wanted war. Some wanted negotiation. Some wanted to pretend nothing had happened and hope the problem went away. Overlord Krathos listened to them all. Finally, he raised his hand for silence. "Earth's transmission included precise data about our moon locations," he said. "They know exactly where the moons are. They can return them anytime they want. But they have not returned them. Why? Because they are waiting for us to negotiate," Methus said. "Or because they are waiting for us to attack," Drex countered. "So they can justify doing something worse. Then we are trapped," Vornis said. "If we attack, they might destroy our worlds. If we negotiate, we look weak. If we do nothing, other species will think we cannot protect them." Krathos stood. "We negotiate, but we do it carefully. We need to understand what they want and what they can really do. Call Ambassador Taman. Tell him we are ready to talk." "My lord," Drex protested, "this sets a terrible precedent. If one small species can blackmail us, others will try." "Good," Krathos said. "Let them try. Let everyone try. Because now we know that military strength is not the only kind of strength that matters. Earth just changed the rules of power in this galaxy. We can either adapt or become irrelevant." He looked at the empty displays where the moons should be. 3 invisible ships were out there somewhere, holding 3 moons hostage with technology the Concordance could not detect. 70 ships. That was all Earth had. And somehow, they had brought the greatest empire in the galaxy to its knees without firing a single shot. The laughter had stopped. Now came the hard part. The Corvan Empire had always been the most aggressive member of the Concordance. Their species thrived on conflict. They had conquered 40 star systems through military force. When Overlord Krathos announced negotiations with Earth, the Corvan leadership saw weakness. Supreme Commander Vokran called his war council together. "The Verith have lost their nerve," he announced. "Earth played a trick with mirrors and shadows. They moved some moons, so what? That does not win wars. Ships win wars. Weapons win wars. Earth has invisible ships," one of his advisors cautioned. "Ships we cannot detect." "We have 5,000 ships in our home fleet alone," Vokran replied. 20,000 more spread across our territory. Earth has 70 total. Even invisible ships can be destroyed if you flood space with enough firepower. "The Concordance has ordered us to stand down," another advisor reminded him. "The Concordance is controlled by cowards now," Vokran said. "The Corvan Empire will show everyone what real strength looks like. We will crush this human colony at Sigma Draconis. We will show the galaxy that tricks and technology mean nothing against true military power. He gave the order. 5,000 Corvan warships began moving toward Sigma Draconis, where Earth had established a small colony. The fleet was massive. It could destroy planets. One small human settlement would be wiped out in minutes. In Earth's command center, Admiral Jiwan watched the Corvan fleet's movement with cold calculation. They are not listening to the concordance. They are coming anyway. Sigma Draconis has 200,000 colonists, President Sunho said. We cannot evacuate them in time. We do not need to evacuate them, Jiwan replied. We need to stop the Corvan fleet. How? They have 5,000 ships. Even if we sent our entire fleet, we would be outnumbered 70-1. Jiwan pulled up a star map showing the Corvan home system. We do not need to meet their fleet. We need to make them recall their fleet. She sent new orders to Commander Seojun, whose stealth ship Whisper had finished moving the Verath moons and was waiting for new assignments. The message was simple. Proceed to Corvan Prime and prepare Operation Nightfall. 3 days later, the Corvan fleet was 2 days away from Sigma Draconis. Supreme Commander Vokran stood on the bridge of his flagship and imagined the glory of his victory. He would succeed where Krathos had failed. He would crush Earth's resistance and restore Concordance dominance. Then his communications officer received an urgent message from home. Commander, Corvan Prime reports astronomical anomaly. The sun's brightness has decreased by 40%. Vokran turned. What? That is impossible. Confirmed, sir. Multiple observation stations report the same thing. Our star is dimming. Stars do not just dim, Vokran said. But even as he spoke, he remembered. Moons do not just disappear. Yet Earth had made that happen too. New messages flooded in from Corvan Prime. The temperature was dropping. Cities that had never experienced nighttime cold were seeing their first frost. Agricultural stations reported crop failures. Weather patterns were destabilizing. Panic spread across the planet. Analysis, Vokran demanded. What is causing this? Unknown, sir, his science officer replied. There is no natural explanation. Something is blocking the sunlight. But sensors show nothing between our planet and the sun. Vokran felt cold understanding settle in his chest. Earth. It had to be Earth. A new transmission arrived. Ambassador Taman appeared on screen, standing against a background of stars. Supreme Commander Vokran, Taman said, your fleet is currently 48 hours from Sigma Draconis. Our colony there has 200,000 people, farmers, teachers, children. You intend to kill them all to make a point about strength. Taman's expression was calm, but his words were hard as steel. We have positioned gravitational lenses between your sun and your home world. Taman continued. These lenses are bending light away from Corvan Prime. Right now, your planet receives 60% of its normal sunlight. In 6 hours, we will reduce that to 40%. In 12 hours, we will reduce it to 20%. Your planet will freeze. The star map behind Taman changed to show technical data. Precise measurements of the gravitational lenses. Calculations showing exactly how much light was being blocked. Proof that Earth knew what they were doing. Recall your fleet, Taman said. Return to your home system. If your ships continue towards Sigma Draconis, we turn the lights off completely. Your civilization will die in the dark. If you turn back now, we restore normal sunlight within 1 hour. The transmission ended. Vokran stared at the empty screen. Around him, his officers waited for orders. On Corvan Prime, billions of his people were getting colder by the minute. Recall the fleet, Vokran said quietly. Sir, his first officer asked. I said recall the fleet. Vokran roared. All ships return to Corvan Prime immediately. The massive armada turned around. 5,000 ships that had been sent to destroy a human colony were now racing home to save their own world. Within 30 minutes of the fleet's course change, Corvan Prime's sun returned to normal brightness. The gravitational lenses disappeared as if they had never existed. Temperature began rising. The crisis ended as suddenly as it had started, but the damage was done. The Corvan Empire's government collapsed within hours. Supreme Commander Vokran was removed from power. Emergency elections were held. The new leadership's first act was to send a formal apology to Earth and request immediate peace negotiations. In the Concordance Assembly, the other species watched and learned. The Corvan Empire had been the second most powerful military in the galaxy. Earth had stopped them without destroying a single ship. Without even being seen, how many invisible ships do they have? One ambassador whispered to another. Does it matter? came the reply. They can be anywhere. They can do anything, and we cannot stop them. Overlord Krathos received reports from his intelligence network. Earth's main fleet of 40 visible ships had never left the border region. That meant different ships had handled the Corvin situation. At least some of Earth's stealth vessels were still at Vareth Prime, holding the 3 moons. Others had been at Corvin Prime. That was at least 40 ships accounted for, but Earth claimed to have 70 ships total. Where were the other 30? The answer came when 12 other major concordance worlds reported minor astronomical anomalies. Nothing dangerous, just small unexplained gravitational readings near their moons or suns. The readings lasted for exactly 1 hour, then disappeared. It was a message. Earth was showing them that their invisible ships were everywhere, watching, waiting, ready. High Strategist Vornis met privately with Krathos. "My lord, we must negotiate seriously with Earth. This is not a bluff. They have demonstrated capability to strike anywhere in concordant space without warning." "I know," Krathos said tiredly. He looked older than he had a week ago. "But if we give Earth everything they want, what message does that send? That the concordance can be blackmailed?" "The concordance is already being blackmailed," Vornis replied. "Earth did that the moment they took your moons. The question now is whether we handle this with intelligence or with pride." "Pride," Krathos said bitterly. "Pride made me laugh at Ambassador Taman. Pride made Vakran attack. Pride has cost us everything." "Not everything," Vornis said. "We still have our fleet. We still have our empire. But we need to recognize that the galaxy has changed. Military strength is no longer the only kind of strength that matters." Krathos thought about that. For 10,000 years, the concordance had ruled through military might. The strongest survived. The weak submitted or died. It was simple. It was clean. But Earth had changed the rules. They could not match the concordance in military strength, so they had used intelligence instead. Creativity instead. They had found ways to strike that no one had imagined possible. "Contact Ambassador Taman," Krathos ordered. "Tell him we are ready to negotiate. Seriously this time. No more games. No more threats. We will discuss Earth's requests and find a solution." Vornis bowed. "And the moons, my lord?" "Leave them where they are," Krathos said. "For now. Let Earth keep them as insurance. It shows we are serious about negotiation. Besides," he added grimly, "they could take them again any time they wanted. At least this way we choose to let them hold our moons rather than having them stolen again." The message went out to Earth. The concordance was ready to talk. Really talk. Not the dismissive meeting from before, but genuine negotiation between equals. Because that was what Earth had accomplished. In 1 week, with invisible ships and impossible technology, they had forced the greatest empire in the galaxy to treat them as equals. Captain Minho received the news aboard the Indomitable. His fleet was still at the border, still visible, still waiting. They had been bait for the entire operation. If things had gone wrong, they would have been the first to die. "Stand down from combat alert," Minho ordered his crew. "Maintain position but reduce readiness to standard patrol status." Lieutenant Hyegen looked up from her station. "Does this mean it worked, sir?" "It means we survived," Minho replied. "Whether it worked depends on what happens in the negotiations." But in his heart he knew it had worked. Earth had done something no one thought possible. They had challenged the concordance and won. Not through destruction, not through death, but through fear. Through the demonstration of power so absolute and incomprehensible that fighting back seemed pointless. Commander Siogen sat on the bridge of the Whisper, still invisible, still hidden near the Corvin home system. His crew was exhausted. They had been operating under stealth conditions for days, manipulating gravitational fields powerful enough to bend starlight. "New orders from command," reported Communications Officer Bora, reading a tight beam encrypted message. "Hold position and await further instructions. Prepare to restore normal stellar output to all affected systems on command." "Acknowledged," Siogen replied. "How is the crew holding up?" "Tired," Bora admitted, "but proud. We just stopped a war without firing a shot." Siogen nodded. That was exactly what they had done. And soon, one way or another, they would find out if it was enough. The negotiation station was built in neutral space, exactly halfway between Earth and Vareth Prime. It was a massive structure that could hold thousands of diplomats. Representatives from every concordant species gathered to watch history being made. Ambassador Taman arrived aboard a simple transport ship. He brought only 5 assistants. The Concordance delegation included Overlord Krathos, High Strategist Vornis, and representatives from 20 major species. They arrived in ships that could destroy planets. The meeting room was circular with seats arranged so everyone could see each other. Taman sat across from Krathos. Between them was nothing but empty space and the weight of everything that had happened. Ambassador Taman, Krathos began. His voice was formal but respectful. Earth has demonstrated capabilities that we did not know were possible. You have our attention. What do you want? Taman pulled up a holographic display showing 3 star systems. These systems, as we originally requested, they are unclaimed. No species lives there. We simply want permission to settle them without interference. That is all? Krathos asked. He sounded suspicious. After everything you have done, you want 3 empty star systems? That was always all we wanted, Taman replied. We did not seek conflict. We did not want to embarrass you. You forced us to demonstrate our capabilities by refusing to negotiate fairly. Now you see what we can do. So I ask again, may we settle these 3 systems? Counselor Methus of the Aquarian Sphere spoke up. Why should we trust that you will stop at 3 systems? You have shown you can strike anywhere. You could demand anything. Because we do not want an empire, Taman said. We want homes. We want to live in peace. If we wanted conquest, we would have started with conquest. Instead, we started with diplomacy. We moved your moons, but we did not destroy them. We dimmed the Corvin sun, but we did not extinguish it. Every action we have taken was designed to minimize harm while proving capability. You could have destroyed us, Krathos said slowly. It was not a question. Yes, Taman admitted. If we wanted to. We could have crashed your moons into your planet. We could have collapsed the Corvin sun, but we did not want to. We wanted to talk. We still want to talk. High Strategist Vornis leaned forward. What guarantees do we have that you will not use these weapons again? What guarantees do we have that you will not attack us again? Taman countered. This is what negotiation means. Both sides make commitments. Both sides take risks. You ask us to trust you, Krathos said, after you stole our moons. You ask us to trust you, Taman replied. After you laughed at us and threatened to destroy our ships? Trust must start somewhere. The room fell silent. Then President Sunho, who had been sitting quietly behind Taman, stood up. Overlord Krathos, Sunho said. May I speak plainly? Please, Krathos replied. For 10,000 years, the Concordance has ruled through military strength. The strongest species dominated. The weakest served or died. It was simple. It was effective. But it was also limiting. Sunho walked to the center of the room. Earth could not compete in that system. We have 70 ships against your 50,000, so we changed the rules. We innovated. We created technology that made fleet size irrelevant. We proved that intelligence matters more than firepower. You are saying the old system is obsolete, Krathos said. I am saying the old system is incomplete, Sunho replied. Military strength still matters. But it is not the only thing that matters. Technology matters. Strategy matters. Creativity matters. And sometimes the smallest species can change everything. He returned to his seat. We want 3 star systems. In return, we offer full cooperation with Concordant security. We will share some technological advances. We will participate in joint defense initiatives. We will be partners, not enemies. Some technology, Vornis noted. Not all. Not all, Sunho agreed. Just as you do not share all your technology with us, but enough to show good faith. Enough to build trust over time. Krathos looked around at the other delegates. He could see the calculation in their eyes. They were afraid of Earth, but they were also curious. What else could this small species accomplish? What other innovations might they create? The 3 star systems are yours, Krathos said finally. In addition, Earth has offered full membership in the Galactic Concordance with voting rights. You will have a seat on this council. Murmurs spread through the room. Membership with voting rights was unprecedented for such a small species, but everyone understood why. It was not a reward. It was insurance. Better to have Earth inside the government where they could be watched than outside where they might become unpredictable. We accept, Taman said. And the moons? Krathos asked. They will be returned today, Taman replied. All 3 moons positioned back in their exact original orbits. You will barely notice they were ever moved. How did you do it? Krathos asked quietly. How did you develop such technology? Sunho smiled. You had 10,000 years of peace. You refined your weapons and your ships, but you had no reason to truly innovate. We had 70 ships facing your 50,000. We had to innovate or die. Desperation breeds creativity. So it was necessity, Fornes said. Everything important comes from necessity, Sunho replied. You were comfortable with your military dominance. We were desperate to survive. Comfort makes you strong. Desperation makes you clever. The negotiations continued for 3 more days. Details were worked out. Treaties were signed. Earth gained the 3 star systems plus membership in the Concordance. In return, they shared technology for improved sensors and provided technical advisors for Concordance security. They did not share the silent departure stealth technology. That remained Earth's secret. Everyone understood why. It was Earth's guarantee. As long as they had invisible ships, they would be respected. On the 4th day, the 3 moons of Verath Prime returned. 30 invisible ships guided them back to their original positions with such precision that astronomers had to check their instruments twice to believe it. The moons simply appeared where they should be, as if they had never left. The population of Verath Prime celebrated. The economic crisis eased. The panic faded. But nobody forgot what had happened. Nobody forgot that their moons had been taken and returned like toys being borrowed and returned to a child. 6 months later, Captain Minho stood on the bridge of his new flagship. He had been promoted to admiral and given command of the Joint Fleet, a combined force of human and concordance vessels that patrolled the border regions. Admiral, Lieutenant Heejin reported. She had been promoted too. All ships report ready for patrol. Proceed, Minho ordered. The fleet moved out, 10 human ships and 20 concordance vessels, working together. The sight would have been unimaginable a year ago. Commander Seojin received a different assignment. He became head of the Stealth Operations Division. The 30 invisible ships became 60, then 100. Not for conquest, not for attack, but for insurance. The ships drifted through space, watching and waiting. Nobody knew exactly where they were. Nobody knew exactly what they could do. But everyone knew they existed. That was enough. Lieutenant Hana returned to Earth and became an instructor at the Defense Academy. She taught navigation to young officers who would crew the next generation of ships. When students asked her about the mission to steal the Verath moons, she always gave the same answer. We did the impossible because we had no other choice. Remember that. Innovation comes from necessity. Courage comes from desperation. And sometimes the only way to win is to change the rules. Admiral Jiwon retired after the negotiations ended. At her final press conference, a reporter asked if she had ever doubted the plan would work. Every single moment, Jiwon admitted. From the moment we proposed it to the moment the moons returned. But doubt is not the same as failure. We doubted and did it anyway. That is what courage really means. Would you do it again? The reporter asked. Jiwon smiled. I hope we never have to. The point was not to prove we could steal moons. The point was to prove we could think differently than everyone else. That lesson has been learned. Now we must find new ways to think differently. 5 years after the incident, the galaxy had changed. 3 smaller species had developed their own asymmetric defensive technologies, inspired by Earth's example. The era of dominance by pure military strength was ending. Intelligence and innovation became just as important as fleet size. The concordance became stronger because of it. Species that had been oppressed found ways to resist. Species that had been complacent started innovating again. Competition drove progress. Progress drove peace. Earth's colonies in the 3 contested systems grew and prospered. Millions of humans built homes on new worlds. They looked up at alien stars and knew they were safe because somewhere out there, invisible guardians watched over them. On Verath Prime, citizens still looked up at their 3 moons every night. The moons were beautiful. They were familiar. But they were also a reminder. A reminder that power comes in many forms. A reminder that underestimating your enemy is the greatest mistake you can make. Overlord Krathos kept a private display in his office, showing the empty space where the moons had been. He looked at it sometimes when making difficult decisions. It helped him remember that the universe could surprise him, that the small could defeat the large, that innovation mattered more than size. In a secure facility on Earth, scientists continued developing new technologies. The silent departure system was improved and refined. New applications were discovered. But the government kept it all secret. The galaxy knew Earth had invisible ships. They knew Earth could move moons and dim stars. But they did not know the full extent of what Earth could do. That uncertainty was the point. As long as the galaxy wondered what else Earth was capable of, Earth would be safe. Fear of the unknown was more powerful than any weapon. Ambassador Taman, now serving as Earth's representative on the Concordance Council, gave a speech on the anniversary of the Moon incident. 1 year ago we changed the galaxy, he said. Not through destruction, not through conquest, but through demonstration. We showed that the old rules were incomplete. We proved that innovation matters. We reminded everyone that underestimating your opponent is dangerous. He paused, looking at the assembled representatives. Species that had once dismissed Earth now listened carefully to every word. But the most important thing we proved, Taman continued, is that peace can be stronger than war. We could have destroyed the Verith moons. We could have extinguished the Corvan sun. We chose not to. We chose restraint. We chose to give everyone a chance to reconsider. And because we chose peace, we are all here today, working together instead of destroying each other. The assembly applauded. Even Overlord Krathos, who had laughed at Taman a year ago, joined in. Somewhere in deep space, the stealth ship Whisper drifted silently. Commander Seojin sat in the captain's chair, watching stars slowly move across the screen. His ship was invisible. His mission was classified. But he knew what he was protecting. Earth had changed the galaxy by proving that the smallest voice could make the loudest sound if it said something worth hearing. The War Council had laughed at Earth's fleet. They would never laugh again,